Flyboy. This is a rebellion, isn't it?
I call it aggressive negotiations.
The garbage will do!
Welcome to the Trash Compactor podcast, where we're doing a special reacts episode for the release of The Last Jedi. The wait for 8 is over, and it's opening weekend, and we have several people here who are very excited to talk about what we've just experienced. I'm Roane, and I'm here with
Emcee,
April, and Angie.
And Angie is a very special guest on our podcast this time around, so welcome, Angie.
Thanks, guys.
So, we waited for 2 years, and we finally got to see The Last Jedi.
we did.
So, thoughts? What do y'all think? How'd you like it?
I thought it was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen it twice now.
Same.
And the first time I saw it, it was so good. Like, I mean, it was exciting. It was even better the second time.
Yeah, it really was. 100%.
See, I'm jealous. I've only seen it once so far because I saw it last night, and today I was just too filled with emotions to be able to deal with seeing it again so soon.
Yeah,
but
we talked about going to see it again yesterday, and then we were like, can't do it.
Need a day off in between.
I know. I loved it. It was everything I wanted it to be, and a lot of things that I wanted it to be but didn't expect it to be.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and then some things...
And a lot of things I thought I didn't want that turned out to be perfect.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
that's one thing I wanted to talk about, is the things that I was like, I don't think I will like that, and then it turned out I was okay with it.
I mean, one thing I do have to acknowledge is that certainly this is a controversial movie within the fandom, within just the viewing public in general. But I think a big reason for that is this is a really complex movie. I would actually say out of all of the Star Wars movies, this is probably the most complex because most of them...
There's a lot going on.
Yeah, most of them are all like, let's shoot at those guys while they shoot at us. And some other stuff will happen in between. But this was mostly character studies.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of moral ambiguity going on.
Yes, lots of gray areas.
Yes. And we had influences from everything from Rashomon to Pride and Prejudice. So it was like... yeah.
Oh man, if this was a fic on AO3, it would be listed as a Pride and Prejudice AU.
Only part of it. So has everybody had a chance to kind of give initial impressions?
Yeah, like, you know, it's the basic, I'm shook, my crops are watered, my skin is clear.
Yes.
You know,
I'm clutching my pearls.
my cattle are thriving.
I did not die of dysentery. I made it to the West, guys, and I'm real excited to be here.
So there were a lot of different storylines going on. Like, this was a very
plot
busy
heavy
movie.
Usually for the second Star Wars installment, they do like two storylines. Like in Empire, it was Luke and it was Han and Leia. And in Attack of the Clones, it was Obi-Wan, it was Anakin and Padme. And this one, they still had two storylines going on, but those storylines kind of split. So you had... Yeah, the Resistance
there were like
plot, which was Finn and Rose, and then there was Poe, Leia, and Holdo. And then with the Jedi plot, you had Rey and Luke, but then you also had this very strong Rey and Kylo thing going on, so...
Yeah, well, I think it's because it's more of an ensemble.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like, here's a trio, and they're gonna do stuff. It was like, here's like 6 lead characters.
Yeah.
And they're all very important.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So, do you want to start with like the whole Finn Rose thing we talked about?
Yeah, I think that's probably a good place to start. Which is...
Oh my god.
I would
I
die
loved
for
Rose so much.
Rose is amazing.
She's
I
so
love
pure.
her so much.
But she'll also kick your ass, which is awesome.
She's so pure.
That part, okay, when she was like...
Oh, totally.
When she was like, my sister and I heard about it, and we were like, that's a real hero. It sounded like something out of like a 1940s war movie.
Yeah.
Like they're on a
I
farm,
know, right?
and they're like, Paige.
Except she was standing there with the
Paige,
taser.
that guy's a real hero. He sure is, Rose. Like,
It
it was
sure is.
perfect, but it really just was so just like, yeah, it really captured, I think, too, like, sort of where Rose and Paige are from, too, like, I don't know.
I would like to shout out Paige because
Oh
she
my
had like
God.
2 minutes in the
Oh my
movie
God.
and she was amazing.
Oh,
Unforgettable.
2 minutes.
Yeah.
And, like, hardly any lines.
Mhm.
She
Yeah.
did she speak at all, actually?
I don't know that she even
I
had
actually
one
don't think she
spoken
I don't
line.
think she did.
He spoke to her, but yeah, she did. And her face, she's good.
Mhm.
She's
Mhm.
very good. And just, I cried. I was like, I don't know this woman, but I love her.
I'm weeping for her. She's so brave.
I kind of thought she was Paige because we knew that Rose's sister.
Yeah,
was
I knew
gonna
she was
show up.
Paige, but I didn't
And
know, her as a character.
I think the bit with Paige was really, it was almost like a short, like if they had done something about like Dak or Porkins,
Mhm.
or, and it was beautifully done. Just
Yeah.
like this little,
Well, they kind of did. I mean, they kind of did with Dak because we got to see him like greet Luke and be all bright-eyed, bushy-tailed. I'm brand new to the rebellion and I'm gonna die in 2 minutes. Kind of a guy. I mean, come on, Dak had more fucking screen time than Biggs did. So
I
not that
I
I'm bitter.
rewatched Empire. I watched all of the movies actually right before this one came out. And when the bit with Dak came up and he's like, I could take on the whole Empire myself, I was just like, oh my God, just say that you're one day away from retirement.
You might as well just put a t-shirt on that says, I will die in my next scene.
Or a red shirt.
Yeah.
Wrong franchise,
Oh, man.
But yeah, I think what absolutely blew me away with Rose, she's one of those characters who is like sunshine personified, but it's not because she's naive. It's not because she doesn't know any better. Like, you got the impression from the Canto Bite scenes that she has
Yeah,
sense of
absolutely.
shit.
Yeah.
And she's still who she is in spite of that. And I am a sucker for
Yeah,
that type of
100%.
character.
People who don't lose their purity just because they've been through trauma,
I felt coming into this that, and I mean, this is no shade against any of the other characters in any of the Star Wars movies, that Rose was the first character that was a character right off the bat.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everyone else is kind of an archetype.
Yeah.
Rose came in and she wasn't anyone specific. She wasn't the hero. She wasn't the damsel. She was Rose.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She did maintenance.
Yeah.
What did we think about the kiss between Finn and Rose?
It was
Very
really cute.
cute.
And I
Yeah, I was a little bit like,
I think,
it was cute and sweet, but I'm just trying to figure out where that's gonna go.
Right, because Finn seemed to
well,
confused.
not so much where it's going to go is that I didn't really feel the build up as much as I would have wanted to.
Sure, same.
Like it seemed like just kind of out of the blue.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
I was
but
okay
totally-
with it.
I loved their chemistry. I loved them together.
I liked it better the second time.
Yeah, same.
Okay. Well, I'll
Yeah.
pay attention the second
What
time.
I liked
see.
Finn, his confusion was like, because it's like there's probably a lot happening in his head when that happens. Like,
Mhm.
I just think about all the different trains of thought that are going through his head
While that's happening.
when
Well,
that
it was
happens.
probably his
Like,
first kiss.
Yeah, it could have been.
Aw.
Yeah.
That makes it even
I know.
sweeter.
Yeah.
John Boyega has come out and said that Finn is definitely a virgin.
Aw,
So
Wow. All these virgins.
not for
in
long,
this
Finn.
Freaking.
I know.
all these-
Okay, so I feel like we touched briefly while we were dealing with technical difficulties earlier that this was a movie that is about failure and learning from failure. And while we're talking about learning and virgins and kisses and stuff, there might be one non-virgin in the galaxy, and his name is Poe Dameron. And I really rather enjoyed the chemistry between him and
Everybody.
well, yeah. What was it that you said that he could have? What?
chemistry with a table lamp.
Yes, chemistry with a table lamp. Those beautiful brown eyes. It's just the. But no, I told April right after we watched it, I was already starting to like write fic in my head about like the 30 seconds after he and Hondo like face off for the first time on the bridge. and he mansplains to her. And she very casually brushes him off like the fuckboy that he's being. And then, like, but they had so much palpable chemistry. And I just would love for the two of them to have gone into a broom closet and worked some of that out. Like,
I literally, my friend Sarah was sitting next to me, and I literally turned to her, like, right at the end of their first scene and went, "Oh my god, I ship it."
We were sitting there together, and I just looked at her, I was like, what is going on?
What is that?
Because, like, people joked before, we're like, we're totally gonna ship Poe and Amelin. It's Ammo. That's it's a cool ship name, right? And I did not expect that.
Ammo, yeah.
That chemistry was insane. I was just like, holy shit.
Yes.
She would eat him for breakfast.
Oh, he's such a snack.
And he would stick around for lunch.
Yeah.
So.
He's delicious. I think he's so... But no, I like the fact, we were also discussing the fact that, like, these characters got to have some character flaws this time around, and it was cool to see him fuck up so colossally, like, so many times.
Yeah.
There was a fantastic Twitter thread, which I will try to find, and so we can put in the show notes, where someone was talking about, this is the movie, and let me see if I can remember the exact quote, where all the female characters are women trying to get the boys in the movie to stop being boys and to become men.
Yes!
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes! 100%.
And I mean, that is literally true of all of them.
Yeah.
That's so
like,
true.
And this movie, like, totally deconstructs the idea of the masculine hero.
Yeah.
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 I think having Luke turn out the way he did was, like, the starting point of that. And that makes a lot of people really uncomfortable, and I think that's one reason why...
The boys hate it.
I know, I'm sorry, I know we're jumping around, but I think that's one reason why Luke's characterization is such a breaking point in the fandom. Because, if you're not comfortable with that, if you have this rigid notion of what a hero is, it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Well, I think there's been a lot of debate in the Star Wars fandom for the last 3 years or whatever, since Rey was announced as the lead character, about the place of women in science fiction. And I think this movie has continued that, where you have so many female characters that are different from each other and are in control of what they're doing.
God.
Yeah.
You guys, I think this movie passed the Bechdel test.
It totally did.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Holy shit. That has never happened in a Star Wars movie.
No, it hasn't.
Actually, it did sort of like The Force Awakens did when Maz and Rey were talking.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. That's true. Maz! Oh my god, I loved her little cameo.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yes. Oh my god, she's amazing.
That
I
was
want
cute.
I want her to have an animated series.
Yes. She would be
she
brilliant.
needs one.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, I missed that one today. I missed that scene because I was in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So going back to the Poe thing, the Poe, Leia, and Holdo resistance storyline.
Oh.
I'm heartbroken that the resistance is down to a bunch of people who can fit on the
Oh
Falcon.
my
Oh,
God.
God, it was so devastating.
And I felt the same way. It was like, except a longer, drawn out version of watching the Enterprise get utterly destroyed in Star Trek Beyond.
Yes, it was. Oh my god.
It really was. It was like 2 hours of that instead of like 5 minutes or whatever it was that it took and beyond.
Yeah.
Because it was just like, and like, it was funny because somebody compared it derisively to watching like a space version of the OJ Bronco chase. And I was like, no, that is not what is happening
Not even
here.
remotely.
And,
No.
Oh, I thought, and I can't even tell you the number of times that we've talked about how fucking baller it was when Laura Dern takes over the ship and turns it around and
my
warp
God.
speeds into their ass. Like, it's not warp though. What is their term? Hyper. Yes, sorry.
Hyperdrive.
I'm-
Warp is Star Trek.
Sorry,
It's okay.
I'm mixing up my terminology.
Well, I just brought up Star Trek too.
Yeah,
So.
sorry, my nerd brain was just like, nope.
Yeah.
But no, oh God, that was such a beautiful, strong, brave moment. And here's my thing: as a woman who prides herself on being strong, but also is a person who loves to do crazy shit with my hair and makeup, and to,
Oh my
and
God,
to
I
dress
know.
a certain way. It made me really happy to see this badass bitch being like, she's like, yes, I am in fucking military command here, and I am wearing this beautiful drapey
Cocktail, like evening gown
with my purple
And I have
hair.
purple hair.
Yeah, with my
Deal
fierce
with me.
purple
And
hair.
her little halo.
Yeah,
fucking
like,
headdress.
and she's like, I will crash this motherfucker straight into their ship, kamikaze style, at fucking hyperdrive with zero
You know, I
fucks
didn't
because
even-
I will do it in this ball gown and with purple hair.
Yeah, and like,
I didn't even make the connection with her being so hyper feminine,
Yeah.
and I'm gonna cry now because that's fucking
Isn't
awesome.
that amazing?
Yes.
I love that. I love that she's hyper feminine and still that much of a badass.
Yeah.
That's something you don't get to see.
I
much
mean,
either.
not that. I mean, we did get glimpses of Leia getting to be feminine,
Yeah.
but
Sure.
for the most part, we really don't.
yeah,
Yeah, she was in general
I
a
mean,
bit more
'cause I don't think-
tomboyish.
yeah,
I don't think the bikini scene counts because that wasn't
no.
that was objectified.
I
that
have to
wasn't
say,
feminine.
motherfucking space jewelry this time around. Thank you,
Yes,
Carrie
so
Fisher.
much.
Oh my God,
Those
yes.
rings.
Yeah, one thing during the scene with the light speed and Holdo sacrificing herself, like, today I turned to Angie and I was like, so that's the Oscar for sound editing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Yes.
When everything goes silent.
Silence.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. The mutters, like the sounds in the theater are always
There's,
interesting.
and there's nobody really talking.
No,
almost.
it's
Or
just like a
people
bunch of
or
like,
they're like, wow,
yeah, or like, oh,
yeah.
yeah, just like,
Like you
I'm
could
just
not
like, she
believe
did
that.
that.
She had done that.
She did that. I'm like,
that was insane.
I'm so devastated because the character is so great and because I read the Leia novel, so I fell in love with her in that. I'm devastated that she's gone, but then I'm like, gosh, she went out amazingly.
Amazingly, yeah. It is sad that she only got one movie.
Yeah.
I do have a nitpick. And I mean, like, we're gushing so much about this movie. I have to be critical a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
why?
And this is tying into both the Resistance storyline and the Finn and Rose storyline.
Mhm.
When I first saw the movie, the Finn and Rose storyline bugged me. I could not figure out quite what was bugging me about it. And in rewatching it today, I realized it actually was not a problem with the Finn and Rose storyline. It was a problem with the Poe and Holdo storyline. I did not like that everything hinged on people not talking to each other.
Yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
get that
Fan
Poe is a
fiction.
flyboy. I get that Poe is a flyboy that needs to be put into his place.
Yeah.
But all Holdo needs to do, and I
Say we
think
have a
Screen
plan.
Junkies pointed it out, it's like, I have a plan. If you trust Leia, trust me.
Yeah.
That's all she needs to say. And then
Yeah.
they could have still done the Finn and Rose storyline and just, like, had it not be because of people not talking to each other.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a pretty common complaint that I've seen, and I think that's pretty valid.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. I can go along with that.
Yeah. Goes along though with the whole character flaw thing. I think that's a flaw in Holdo's character there.
Yeah.
Is that she decided to shut him out
It
completely.
could be.
No, that's true.
Because he was like dirt beneath her shoes at that point.
That was her
She
mistake.
yeah.
Yeah.
that was her big mistake.
Yeah, that was her failure that she learned from.
Speaking of character flaws, how about that walking character flaw? Kylo Ren, yay!
Oh my god.
Oh, bless his heart.
Oh, I have so much. Today I was really talking about him a lot on Tumblr because I just had a moment. I woke up this morning and I was just like, wow, I'm really sad about him. And it's not because I've given up, like, the redemption thing, I'm like, yeah, I think that's still on the table, but it was just, like, so real, this idea of, like, taking a step forward and taking, like, 5 steps back, especially as
That
somebody...
is such a Kylo thing to do.
Especially as somebody who it reminded me of, like, just this whole thing when people are trying to leave bad situations, but they've been in them so long that that's all they know, you know,
Mhm.
and they hate themselves. It's just like, yeah, you can do this thing and make a step towards getting out, and then you get scared, and you're like, nope, retreating back into the familiar, you know.
Yeah.
But somebody pointed out today something amazing, is that, like, looking at, like, just the way that both Rey and Kylo behave when they're around each other and how different it is to how they are, like, around other people is kind of amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I saw that post, I think.
Yeah, because he's just much more calm and she's much more assured.
When he's around Rey, he's a person
Yes.
rather than a mask, because even
Yes.
though he abandons the helmet, he's still Kylo Ren.
Yeah.
Oh, that helmet smash.
That was
I-
That was when I wasn't really spoiled,
Mhm.
but I saw one of the big Raylo fans, I can't remember which one, who the only comment she made about it after seeing it was the whole, my crops are watered, my skin is clear,
Yeah.
and I went, oh fuck, something, redemption of some sort happened,
Yeah.
because she would not be that happy.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about Snoke and Kylo's relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Oy,
that's-
goodbye.
Because I was just thinking, I noticed today, it's one of those things where it's like, a lot of the time, oh wait, that's a totally separate thought. Okay, so with Snoke and Kylo, when he's talking to Kylo about Hux, and he says, I like to keep a rabid cur on a leash so I can exploit their weakness, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, Kylo just takes that in, I bet, and it's just like, yeah, too bad for Hux. And I was like, he's talking about you too, you dumb
Yeah,
fuck.
seriously.
Yeah.
I actually felt like Kylo knew right away that he was talking about him. That's, for me, it felt almost like Kylo was an abused child at that point. Like, he was so used to
Yeah.
Snoke being so hard on him that he just absorbs it.
Yeah. The thing that broke my heart is when he says, I've given everything to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was just like, fuck you motherfucker. Like, yeah, Snoke was, like, insanely hateable in a way
Yeah.
that I think that some people hate Kylo. I was just like, oh my god. So another thing that I noticed about Kylo Ren is that and I noticed this a little bit in The Force Awakens, but it's also in this, it continued through, is that often Kylo, when he talks about other people, he's emotionally projecting,
Yes.
Yeah,
like, about
Oh,
himself.
a little?
Just a little. Everything he
just
says.
a tiny bit.
Also, whenever he emotionally projects, the little twitch under his left eye, it's really devastating.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much with Kylo. I mean, Kylo is, bar none, the most complicated character that has ever been in Star
Yeah,
Wars.
and so frustrating.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I mean, like, I know some people will say that Anakin is very complex, but the thing with Anakin is because the story was done backwards, it's not as complex because you know where he's going.
Yeah.
But we have no idea what's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah, and then Kylo Ren, I think, too, is somebody who has not ever actually been able to develop as his own person.
Yep.
Because
No.
he was, Luke is like, you're going to be this. And in a way, you were going to be a weapon. A defensive weapon, probably, but you were going to be a weapon. Snoke made him into a weapon. Rey's like, kind of, like, wants, like, her compassion for him is huge, but also, like, she had a strategy for winning the war when she went to him, and it was
Yeah.
to use him as a weapon. So it's like, I think it's going to be really interesting seeing what he does in 9, just because it's like he has to be a person who is in charge, possibly, of other people, if he even gets far enough to be actually in charge, because I figured there'll be a time skip, so we could have a crawl that's like, Kylo Ren has been deposed by General Hux and is in exile, like, that's a thing that could happen.
That would
Yeah.
not surprise me in the least.
Yeah, because looking at the way Hux's little scheming face at the end when he was looking at Kylo, he's like, no. And there's also that fucking Chekhov's gun of, like, Kylo lying to...
And saying that Rey killed
Yeah.
Snoke.
So that's
Yeah.
terrible for him if Hux finds out the truth.
Yeah.
And it also gives us an opportunity, speaking of Chekhov's gun, go back to the Aftermath trilogy, allows us to introduce that, and Uncle Lando can come help him. That's just my dream. But
I went into this movie and I liked Kylo Ren well enough. Like, I thought he was interesting. And then, like, April, you can attest to, like, me coming out of this, and it's like, save Ben Solo, save him right now.
I saw the best comment on him today as someone saying, I don't know that I agree with them, but I think this is a really fascinating distinction to make. She said that she came out of the movie liking him better as a character, but disliking him more as a person. That the character became like 1,000 times more interesting.
Yeah.
Which, oh my god, he totally did.
Yeah, a lot of people have said that he is the most interesting Star Wars character, like, hands down.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he is fascinating, and I think we can kind of tie this into Luke now, because, again, boy, talk about a base breaker for the fandom.
Oh my
the
god.
idea that Luke even for a moment thought about killing his nephew.
Mm-hmm.
I was shocked by that, but I was also like, holy shit, he really would.
He's
Like, he would have that moment and then be
Mhm.
like, oh my god, I can't do that. Because this is the same guy who, I mean, he hacked Vader's hand off in a rage
Mhm.
Yeah.
and then went, oh shit,
yeah.
that was
and
my-
backed out of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
So yeah,
he totally would.
is like that the big plot twist that everybody was talking about? Because people
I
are like biggest
haven't
twist
seen
in Star
people-
Wars history. Like before the movie came out, all the journalists were like,
Really?
shocking twist, biggest twist, and they said, and even some of the I know like some of the Japanese promotion was like, it's gonna have the biggest twist ever, and I'm like,
Was it that or the astral
twist?
projection? Like the fact that he wasn't
Huh,
actually there?
I hadn't heard that.
The fact that,
I would bet it's probably that, because people who, like, don't pay attention
yeah,
might have thought that Luke would never, ever, ever, when Luke totally would.
yeah,
I mean, the dude has impulse issues. He's
Yeah.
a Skywalker.
Yeah.
This explains so much of Kylo Ren's resentment to his parents and everything, because I've seen so many people go, well, poor baby, your parents were more interested in, like, leading the government and, like, rebuilding
And I don't
everything.
think that was true at all.
But if you look at this, it's Ben Solo felt like he was abandoned by his parents to his uncle, who then tried to kill him.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, yes, he was pretty much going to the dark side. And another interesting point I saw someone bring up, and I can't remember who, you can tell I spent all day on Tumblr, was talking about that he must have already had some kind of plan in place, because he was able to get together with the other students who I'm presuming turned out to be the Knights of Ren.
That is the reigning theory.
Yeah.
Though,
Yeah, that he was able to get them together and basically take down the rest of the school in very short order.
But how are you gonna like not talk to a kid? Like, is
Yeah,
this,
I know,
like,
right?
Conversation. It's kind of like the "Are you on drugs?" conversation.
Well, some parents don't have that conversation either.
that's
They
true.
just like jump to conclusions.
Well, and Luke
I
isn't
think-
a parent.
And-
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking this too. I was talking about this with somebody. God, I've talked to so many people about this movie today. Luke was so fucking terrified of the dark side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he had that ingrained in him
Yeah.
from Yoda and from Ben. You don't, once you turn, that's it.
Yep.
You're gone. You can't do it. And even though he had the example of his father who proved, like, that is not true,
That redemption is
I
possible.
think he was so terrified of that part of himself, and that's why he was so freaked out at Rey, and it's why he was so freaked out that, oh my god, Kylo is turned or Ben is turned, and I can't fix him, and I can't take care of it all by myself, and I have to kill him. It's the only thing I can do.
Yeah.
And talked himself into this panicked corner.
Yeah. Because I think that's a huge thing too. Is like with the whole reason that things may have gone wrong with Leia too, is that she not having had any sort of resolution with her father would have been terrified of even the potential for darkness in her son, and just
Yeah,
tried whatever they could to repress it,
yeah.
and that's never good.
I was thinking in terms of Kylo and the Knights of Ren. It's like, I don't know exactly what happened. Like, they do say that Snoke was kind of picking at Kylo before Luke went to, quote-unquote, confront him. But I'm kind of wondering if Ben, I should say, if Ben went up to the students and is like, hey, guess what? My uncle just tried to fucking kill me. And they're like, yeah, do you know what? We're going to get the fuck out of here, because if Luke's trying to kill his nephew in his sleep,
We're all toast,
Yeah.
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 I believe there's like a book of concept art out, which they have like notes on it. And there is, I will post a link to the Tumblr post of it, but they have a picture of Ben from what is supposed to be from the flashback scene. He looks all of 12 in this scene. And
The age thing is just not adding up.
It's not.
yeah, the age is weird. But yeah, the movies are portraying him as being very young.
Yeah.
And he looked terrified in the scene.
I think it's emotional. It's safe to say that emotionally, he was very young. I mean, regardless of what his physical age was.
Well, and the thing about Adam Driver is that he's kind of got this look that he might possibly be just a very overgrown 15-year-old.
Yeah.
He might just be like a mutant, actually, because he's so enormous and lumberjacky and climbable. And I feel like maybe he might even be an overgrown man-child person. So,
Yeah. And in these notes that come with the art, it says that with the 3 flashback Rashomon scenes, the only one that's not true is Luke's.
Right. Yeah, and that goes into the most detail.
Yeah.
And that is, I have to say, as a Luke fan, that is incredibly fucking painful.
Yeah.
But also rings true. Because I think, he retreated to that island out of a sense of failure. Again, we're looking at someone dealing with failure. But there was also an incredible amount of guilt. And not even just guilt, but shame.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He literally felt like he did not deserve to do anything other than hide out and wait until he died.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like the second scene that Luke described was probably the closest to what actually happened. But the scene that Kylo described, that's exactly what Ben Solo saw. He saw
because
he saw his uncle being terrifying.
Yeah, and that part doesn't include the stuff with the other students or anything, too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
No, it doesn't. Yeah.
I just got really sad thinking about Luke at the end of Return of the Jedi, standing there, like, leaning up against a tree and seeing all of his ghost faves. And, like, the Ewoks in the background being like, Jep, Jep, and, like, everybody's happy. And he's all like, oh, here are my Force ghost friends. And, like, here's my sis and her hair's all down. She's real pretty. And, like, everybody's happy and hanging out with Ewoks. And here we are seeing him now. And he's, like, a shell of what he once was. And that's just really, really sad.
Okay, I'm gonna cry now.
It's like, what the fuck is up? Like, Anakin, like, why can't you Force Ghost in when Luke is dealing with, like, Kylo as, like, or Ben as, like, a confused kid? Why can't you come in and be like, this is how you should handle it, rather than, trying to murder the kid?
Yeah.
Yeah,
The Force Ghost thing
don't
is
know,
weird. Like, they think they just do what they want. But I did say, speaking of Force Ghosts, this morning I was thinking, Luke cut off his connection to the Force, and I just keep imagining, like, Obi-Wan and Yoda just sort of, like, having it. It's almost like it's on repeat, like, auto redial. And, like, as soon as he reconnects, Yoda's like, finally, thank God! What the fuck are you doing?
Pick up the fucking phone! Jeez!
Wow, yeah.
I'm sure he won't.
I also seriously adore Cranky Hermit Luke, like, so
Oh
much.
my god.
Yeah.
Like, eccentric,
Yes.
cranky. When he threw the lightsaber
Oh my-
over his shoulder, I
The whole
died.
theater died. It
Yeah.
was great. It was really good.
And the look he gave her after he milks that titty on that
Oh.
and drank that milk. Yeah, I was just like, this is so weird. And I was just thinking to Ray probably hasn't had milk, like, ever.
Yeah, in her life.
Oh my god, I didn't think of that!
What is she? I mean, I'm sure she's probably seen children be breastfed, but that might be her only, like, actual experience with milk. Like, if you think about it. Like,
One of the biggest complaints that I've seen about this movie is people keep on saying it's like, oh, well, they've Marvelized it. They've tried to make it funny. And
Star Wars is
like,
funny.
I don't understand.
Did you not see the original trilogy?
I know, right?
Also, if this movie weren't so funny, it would be the most depressing movie of 2017.
I know. But I actually think I know what they're referring to. It's like they're totally wrong about that they're Marvelizing it in tone. But what makes it feel different in terms of the original Star Wars movies is that Luke gets to be funny.
Oh.
Yeah.
And do you know how much I love, because they totally used Mark Hamill's sense of humor.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Because he has a fucking bonkers sense of humor,
Yeah.
and they ran with it.
if you look at the original trilogy, Luke's involved in funny things.
Yeah.
But he's
But
more
he
the straight
himself
man.
is not
yeah.
funny.
He's always the straight guy.
Yeah, he's the
Pardon
straight man
expression.
hero.
Yeah.
So
'Cause he's really not.
It's the only
Yeah.
way he's ever straight.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, no, you're totally right. And I think, well, because, I mean, he's totally doing, like, the Yoda thing.
He
He's
Yeah.
being the nutty, eccentric hermit.
Yeah.
I just want to. I saw the post today. Remember, like, way before the movie came out, somebody was like, what if, like, Rey hands him the lightsaber and he just, like, bang, like, throws it off the cliff?
I know.
And I saw a revlog of that today where the person was like, oh my god, it's canon!
I am not convinced that the writers and producers were not trolling Tumblr in AO3.
Ryan Johnson has
there
an
were just
AO3
too many
account.
things.
Oh, yeah.
He writes 100k Raylo slow burn fix, like, in his spare time. Yeah.
I have to say, there was one. There were a lot of Luke moments that just really grabbed me, but the one that I didn't expect, and in hindsight is gonna fucking murder me, and I really want to look at it again when I see the movie again, was when he's on the Falcon and he's talking to R2, and R2's trying to convince him to come back, and R2 plays back the snippet from A New Hope.
Yeah.
That
That
was
destroyed me.
Yes.
beautiful.
Same. I cried so hard.
It is a testament to how good an actor Mark Hamill is that he was able to be this cranky hermit Luke, and the second he sees R2, he is back on Tatooine,
That
and
smile.
he's that farm boy
Oh
again.
my god, that smile.
Oh.
That was the one thing I wanted from this movie more than anything, was a chance to see him smile at least once.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And that was beautiful.
Yeah. Oh, he does have a really nice smile.
And when you said to R2, I wish I could get you to understand, because he, like, I think about that as like, he left R2. R2 witnessed
Yeah, I
know.
everything. And, like,
Yeah.
he left him.
I have a friend who is a latecomer to the Star Wars universe. Like, she's in her early 30s now, and she just watched it all for the very first time. And she had not grown up watching it like all of us had. And, like, hadn't. I mean, like, April and I were talking about, there's never been a part of our lives that we remember that didn't have Star Wars in it. And, like,
Yeah.
for as long as we've been alive. And this friend of mine, she had never watched them, so she just sat down and watched all of them at once. And she decided that R2-D2, whom she referred to as BP Trash Can, she said that BP Trash Can was clearly the moral center of the Star Wars universe, and that ultimately all the stories were about him. Like,
That's very true.
yeah, like
love
I
that.
kind of love that. He is kind of a through line. Like, he's like the only character, I guess 3PO too, but they're the
In
only
all of
characters
them.
that are in
Yeah.
all the movies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But 3PO got his memory wiped, and I think we learned that R2 didn't.
Yeah.
I believe that maybe it was just something that George had mentioned, but that his idea was that all of the Star Wars movies are stories that are being taken from R2.
Oh.
I can buy it. Speaking of stories, and going back to Luke, I think the reason that his ending, and again, I think I'm going to stop calling it a death because
Yeah.
it
Mhm.
wasn't. I think one of the reasons his ending was so perfect is because he went out doing. I think he probably felt like he had atoned for his mistake the best that
Yeah.
he could,
Mhm.
but he also gave the resistance, because there was all this talk about Luke Skywalker being a legend.
Yeah.
And he gave them this enormous legend
Mm-hmm.
that we see in the last scene was starting to spread.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's also something that will spread within the First Order. Because
Yep.
there were witnesses
Yes.
to that. Which is
Mhm.
another thing that will
Oh,
totally
yeah.
undermine Kylo Ren's fucking authority.
Yes.
That he fought with a fucking, like, hologram, basically.
Yes.
You know?
That shot when they were like firing everything
Oh
they
my
possibly
God.
had at him, and he literally brushes it off.
Ugh.
This
Oh.
movie was so much about deconstructing legends, like with Luke Skywalker.
Yes.
He wanted to become a person again, and Finn
Yes.
trying to deal with his now legendary status.
Yeah.
But in dealing with all of this, Luke did become the legend that he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because,
Yeah.
I mean, he's ascended now to become part of the Force, but the only people who know what happened to him are Leia and Rey. And do you think they're going to be telling that to the First Order? Do you think
Nope.
that the First Order is not going to be fearing that Luke Skywalker is just
Right.
going to appear in
Yep.
front of them
Come
at
right
any
back.
point?
Do you think Kylo felt him ascend, though?
I don't
think so, because we specifically saw reaction shots from Rey and
true.
Leia both,
Yeah.
and we
Mhm.
didn't get one from Kylo. And I think if he had felt it, we would have seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's true. Do we think that Kylo knows that Leia is alive? There's a lot of talk about that, about whether or not
Oh,
he
I never
thinks that
thought
she
about
died
that.
on the bridge.
Because that was the last thing he
oh my
saw
God, that
of her.
scene.
Yeah, which would also
that scene.
mean
Oh.
that, like, because that also brings, like, so whenever he said no quarter, no prisoners, is
That he didn't
saying
know that she was
because
there.
she's not alive, or is he to the point where he is like, I just want this done?
Oh wow.
I'm
don't
gonna
know.
believe that he thinks that she's dead.
Yeah, I do too, because I don't think he's, because like matricide and patricide are two different things in terms of like what they mean for a character, you know, and like from mythology on. So it's like,
I think you're
well,
right.
not to mention the fact that so like you said, in different meaning in mythology, not to mention the fact that after he thinks that she's dead, almost immediately after he thinks that she's dead, he gets super distracted because of this, Ray person that shows up.
Well,
and-
in the immediate aftermath, when his wingman takes out the bridge,
Mhm.
he looks fucking heartbroken,
Yeah.
and he
He does.
immediately
'Cause
stops his attack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
And I think, honestly, that he thought that she was gone. I really
Yeah.
do.
Yeah,
yeah. And then I don't know if like he didn't try to feel her in the force after that because of it, or
Or he was distracted by
distracted by his boner.
by his boner being really thick.
Since we are dancing around the scene, this is a very controversial scene, but Leia bringing herself back from being blown off the bridge.
I-
Can we please talk about this
yeah.
scene?
Okay, I have two thoughts. The first thought was it was really fucking badass and I loved it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But something about the way it was shot
Yes,
made me giggle a little
same.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was the Wonder Woman.
It was kind of
pose a little
Supermanish
bit.
or something.
It was a little Supermanish, so I didn't like, and I don't think it was as well rendered as a lot of the other CGI.
Yeah, agreed.
Like the
the
stuff
C-
before
that
she
could be
started
it,
like
too.
moving was fine, but I'm like, I just feel like there was some other way that we could have done this so that she wasn't flying through the air looking like
Yeah.
a doll.
Yeah, that was kind of strange.
Yeah, that was a little odd.
Yeah.
But the feeling behind it was
Oh God,
just
and
awesome.
you know her theme.
The way I felt about it is that it was hokey, but I've waited for 30 fucking years to see Leia use the Force.
Yes.
There you
So
go.
it's like, I don't care.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. I agree. The execution wasn't everything I'd hoped it would be, but I love the concept.
Yeah, and it's Star
100%.
Wars, so I was like able to forgive it. There's
Yeah.
been more
Yeah.
egregious things to happen in a Star Wars movie.
Far
than
Definitely, yeah.
some sort of hokey special effects. So it was like slay queen, fucking slay.
Yes. Oh, she's amazing.
Yeah. Oh my God. Also, Leia with that fucking blaster at the end.
Yes, in
Whenever-
her bathrobe.
Whenever no,
Oh,
like,
no,
was
at
that-
the
but
end.
At the end, whenever Finn and Rose's shuttle comes to the doors and they're all just blasting it, and Leia's right there with her fucking blaster. I was like,
She's
yes.
all like, my diamond rings and, I are...
and she had some pretty deadly accuracy in the original
yeah,
trilogy.
Yeah.
she did.
Yeah, and then her blasting.
Oh, God. We
like,
Shot
in her-
shot Poe in her bathrobe.
oh,
Yes.
my
Oh my
God, with her
God.
hair not did. Like,
Yeah, she's like, I ain't even did my hair yet, son. I'm
Yeah.
gonna shoot you first. Like, April and I were talking about how good it was to see her have more teeth in this movie. Like, Leia
she
usually...
was
Oh, yeah.
a little toothless in The Force Awakens, and that's one of the things
Yeah.
I will never forgive J.J. Abrams for. I'm just like, you
I
took my
have to say
princess
the one
and
thing
defanged her.
about this trilogy that I will never, ever, ever, ever get over is that we have been robbed of what 9 should have been.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because that was supposed to be Leia's
Oh
movie.
my God, and I
Yeah.
was like, thank God, because, you know, we don't get to see whatever, like, a physical reunion between Leia and her son, whether that's a confrontation or a reunion. But my God, at least we got her and Luke.
Right.
Oh my God.
But you know, I have seen people upset that it wasn't an actual physical reunion.
Doesn't matter. It was as
It
much as
was.
it could be. It was spiritual. Like, that's...
Yeah, and it was.
And the
It
actors
was-
were in the same room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, they shot it
Yeah.
together.
That was one of those things that was exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
He
Yeah.
cradled
And-
her face and kissed her forehead. It was beautiful.
I know. And
Yeah.
here's how much of a low life shipper shithead I am. I went, oh my God, I still ship it.
It's okay. It's fine.
It's fine.
Hey, you know, I had 6 years of being convinced that they were going to get together as a child. It
Yeah.
was very
Fair enough.
You know, I imprinted on them.
That's
Um,
fair. That's
yeah.
100% fair.
Okay, speaking of ships, I do have to say this. My only thought at the end when Luke looks up and he sees the binary sunset.
Oh.
My first thought was, oh my god, he really is gonna die. My second thought was, oh my god, he's totally thinking about Biggs and that he's gonna be seeing him soon.
Oh.
And my friend Sarah, who's here for the weekend with me, we have been tormenting each other with that thought all weekend.
Oh, wow.
That's adorable.
Okay, here's the thought that I've been having. When he pulled his little Obi-Wan line with Kylo, if you strike me down, I'll always be with you, just like your father.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm thinking 9 is going to be nothing but Han and Luke haunting Kylo.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
everything.
please
He's
give
trying
me
to-
that.
He's trying to eat his fucking protein slurry because Kylo Ren eats just for fucking sustenance. That's my headcanon. He's like, and for punishment. So he eats the bland shit. And he's just like, the fucking Force ghosts are popping out of the fucking protein slurry. They're popping out of his like closet with all his black clothes. They're like, he's trying to masturbate, thinking about Rey. And they're like,
What's
fucking judging his technique. Like,
if you flip your wrist just a little
I need this fic. I need this fic like you don't even know.
I can do it.
Because can you imagine like the trickstery, cranky Luke that we had in this movie, plus old Han
Oh my god.
Oh,
giving
man.
Kylo nothing but shit?
Yeah.
Amazing.
It's
Oh
like-
my god,
and
I need that.
I seriously saw that as a promise, and it's one that like they almost have to fulfill now because since we don't have Carrie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, he's gonna be tormenting both these kids.
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, that's what I really felt that he was saying, dude. I'm gonna be around. Like, this isn't over. You know.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that like it was very strategically trying to get him to completely lose his shit.
Yeah, and it
Like,
worked.
The things
And
that he
I
said
mean,
to
we
him.
know that isn't hard.
No,
Bless.
he already like got the anger.
Bless his heart.
God, and it does contrast because he was like, especially because he said earlier he didn't hate his father.
Oh, yeah.
But he hates Luke. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
I mean,
You know.
Luke did try to kill him.
right, yeah. And he has anger. He still has anger at Rey for trying to kill him because he brought up that shit where she tried to shoot at him in the forest again. When he said that you have that look in your eyes just like in the forest, and you called me a
Well, okay,
monster.
but you got to remember, this is Mr. talking to Rey, going, "You have to let the past go."
He can't. Well, he's
Because-
physically masturbating to the past.
Now, one thing I noticed watching it the second time is Luke, when he's talking to Leia, he says, "I can't save him." And that's the way he puts it. I can't save him, not Kylo can't be saved. Because
Yeah.
as soon as Leia says that, she thinks her son's gone, Luke says,
He says, "No one's ever
nothing's
lost."
ever really lost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, I'm thinking it's just like, Luke Skywalker cannot save.
Yeah.
Well,
Ben.
and I think that's what we're seeing is that Luke already said, "Hey, I can't save him," and we saw Rey try to save him,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and she can't save him,
Yeah.
and so the only person who can save him is him.
Yeah.
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 And it's just a question of whether or not he can.
It made me so sad that Leo had given up on him. And it may not be permanent
Yeah.
because I'm like thinking, in that moment maybe she did, and the next moment she's like, no.
Yeah.
But like the fact that then Luke said, no, you're wrong. I was like, thank
Mhm.
God. I was like,
Yeah.
somebody still. And like, I know eventually you got to give up on people, I guess, but I'm just like,
And when you're in that state of feeling like, okay, I should give up on someone, you do that. You will say that you have before you have,
yeah. Oh yeah.
because you're trying to convince yourself that you have.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, I'm totally over them.
In The Force Awakens, she said that there was still good in him. But you look at this is a couple of days after Han has been killed by him.
Yeah.
So I can
Yeah.
see why Leia might have that switch. And she might not
yeah,
really
mhm.
believe it.
I could see that.
We should probably talk about Rey a little bit, because we really
Yes.
have not talked about Rey much.
God, Rey.
we
I mean-
talked around Rey.
Can I talk
Yes.
to you about real quick,
Uh.
like Daisy Ridley? Oh my God. Like, how much better she was in this movie. Like,
Oh,
the
she
fact
was
that she was so
fantastic.
worried about it, I'm like, oh my God, she did such good work.
Beautiful work.
Like, wonderful work. And, like, one of the things I love that I noticed this time is that whenever Rey was talking to Luke about the stuff like the whole I'm with the Resistance and blah blah blah, she sounded like she's like, oh my god, the entire however long it takes to get to Octu, which is probably a pretty long, decently long amount of time. She's been rehearsing what she's going to say.
Yeah.
The way she's just like got this speech, and she keeps giving him full speeches. You know, that are really the same thing every time. And I was like, and like her delivery, I was like, what's, and I was like, oh, Rey's been rehearsing.
She's been rehearsing
Because
this
she's
the entire
nervous.
time.
She's like,
She's been practicing with Chewie.
It's
She's
like
Chewie, which
Moana.
is the best one.
it's like Moana, you know? She's like,
Oh my god,
I am Rey of
Chewie.
Jakku. Like, you return to me to the Resistance and
Yes.
restore the heart of the
It's like
rebellion.
her
or
version
something, you know?
of My
Like,
Name is Inigo Montoya.
that
But
too,
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there was just something about Daisy in this where I was just like, she is phenomenal.
She was great.
She
know.
was really good. Yeah.
And just Rey's journey, like the thing, God, her like naivety, how she's just like,
Yeah.
you know, and like to be raised how she is and still want to see the best in people.
It's like Rose.
Yeah,
that's what
very
we were
similar.
saying.
Yeah, exactly.
like because she's just like, no, I can save him, and I'm just like, oh, but it's like, isn't it? Luke was pretty much like that too with Vader, right?
He was.
Yeah.
He
And he
absolutely
didn't
was.
do it right away, you know. So
I mean, Rey is not his daughter,
right,
No.
physically,
Right.
obviously, but I mean, spiritually,
Yeah.
she is exactly what you would want for the person who carries on his legacy.
yeah, and yeah. Can we talk
So-
about the parents?
I was going to say, like, let's talk about this because this is like,
How meta was that?
Oh my god, it was fantastic.
it was totally meta.
I was so happy. I bet Daisy. I just want Daisy to be able to do interviews now where she can talk about how, because I could tell towards the end she was getting so pissed off at the focus. Because if you look at the questions that like the men were getting, like especially like Adam Driver was getting really great questions about Kylo and the character and blah blah blah, and people were just like, so Daisy, who are Rey's parents? And like this character,
Yeah.
like as much as she couldn't talk about like specifics, she could have talked about the journey that her character went through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In as vague
Well, I
terms
mean,
possible,
it's-
and all they
it's-
wanted to talk about was who her goddamn parents were.
Yeah.
It's the Star Wars equivalent of how Scarlett Johansson was always getting questions about how much salad she had to eat
Oh,
to play.
God.
Yeah.
You know,
I need Ryan
Widow.
Johnson and J.J. Abrams to come out and say, yes, what they are saying is right, because I am seeing so many people
Oh,
on the internet
Ryan did.
asking questions about, is this true? Was Kylo Ren lying?
There's an EW interview that just came out where he talks about it, and it's really good because he talks about, he does say, you know, he says, when I wrote it, I didn't believe that Kylo was lying, you know, that this is what he saw whenever they touched hands, and that, he's like, it could become one of those from a certain point of view things. So basically, I think he's saying JJ could retcon it, but I don't think JJ would. But he said that, yeah, he came out and said Kylo was not lying, or if he was, he didn't know he was lying, you know, because this is where he got the information. But also that the reason he did it was because he sat down and thought about what's the hardest thing that these characters can go through. And he said for Luke, the I am your father moment was because that's the hardest thing that Luke could hear, was that his father was not this hero, but this villain.
Was his enemy.
And the hardest thing for Rey to hear would be that she's nobody.
Mm-hmm.
and that her parents really were,
And that they threw her
weren't
away.
ever going to come back.
Yeah. So that's why he did it. And I'm just, so he's addressed it, just it needs to get around more, that he's said, this is the deal.
Yeah, the thing that confuses me about people saying, oh, maybe Kylo Ren was lying, Kylo's not the one who said it first.
Right, and it's
Rey
true.
is.
Yeah, he told her to say it. I think it's people who've seen it once who are like, it's hard to remember that stuff, because I hadn't remembered that. I knew that he had told her something along the same lines that Vader did about searching your feelings or whatever, but it was like, you know, it's true.
Yeah.
But I had forgotten that she did say it first, and then when I watched it today, I was like, oh yeah, she does say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the one who fills in the details.
Yeah.
But Rey is the one. And I've seen people trying to do mental gymnastics, being like, oh, well, maybe she was born of the Force. And actually, I think all of this stuff is taking so much away from Rey.
Yeah, it is.
It is. I mean, because the point, everyone wants to say now, I think because of Kylo, that the point is, you know, this is the next generation of Skywalkers or whatever. But the original point in the trilogy is that Anakin and Luke were nobody.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, Anakin was a fucking slave.
Yeah.
And that was the point, that a nobody can become this.
And Luke
you-
only looks like, a chosen one after the fact, after you look
Yes.
at the entire thing. But if you just look at the first Star Wars movie, he's just some dumbass farm kid.
Yeah, he's a moisture
Yeah,
farmer
and like
from
everyone
Tatooine.
treats him like a dumbass
Yeah,
farm
he's
kid.
like, I just like shooting wild rats.
Yeah, back in Beggar's Canyon,
and
back
Wedge
home.
is like, dude, what the fuck?
Oh, okay, so Angie, this is totally
Uh.
Angie's like little southern accent there reminded me of on Canto Bight, that one guy who was like randomly from Texas. The one who's talking about, like, well, I just parked on the beach and, it's all right. And I was like, is Canto Bight Space, Texas? Like, what are we doing here?
And I'm saying this
Okay,
as
sorry.
the person who has written the fucking book on Mary Sue. But it drives me nuts how many people talked about how Rey was a Mary Sue in The Force Awakens.
Yeah.
And in this, they cannot get away from, oh, well, she has to be a Skywalker or a Solo or born of the Force. She can't just have these powers on her own. I was like, do you guys have no idea what a Mary Sue actually is?
No, they don't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they really. Well, it's interesting to me. I've heard this is anecdotal, of course, but I've heard stories of a lot of women who went to see this with their boyfriends or husbands or male friends or whatever, and the men as a whole are a lot more ambiguous about how much they liked it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can see that.
Well, then I saw that one
Um,
Twitter post where somebody was like, some guy was bitching about how, like, the, it's all about the women being strong and the men being dumbasses. And it's so funny because, like, the guys were just acting like guys. Like, and maybe
Yeah.
that's just my perspective
Yeah.
on it. I was just
It's like, hey,
I
guess
didn't
what?
see them as particularly any more bumbling or stupid than people are in their
Yeah.
lives. You guys
Yeah.
are just used to seeing men who are like either perfect or who are anti-heroes, and
Yeah, but these guys were just
Mhm.
being human dudes full
Yeah.
of hubris and mistakes and like
Yeah.
And I mean, and the women were too.
Yeah.
But the difference is, I think the women learned faster.
yes.
yeah.
Doesn't that normally work that way then?
I was actually thinking about Rey's place as kind of like, even though she comes from nothing, she does kind of have this chosen one status.
Yeah.
And I feel like it was really kind of answered in the movie. Snoke said it's because of Kylo, because he is so dark, he kind of created this light side.
Yeah.
Her
And-
light rises to meet it.
And
Yeah.
I almost thought of it in terms of, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. And in Harry Potter is the chosen one. But he's only like that because Voldemort chose him to be the chosen one. Not on purpose, just it happened because of, like,
Yeah.
Harry Potter stuff. And Rey said in this that there's always been something inside her, but now it's awake.
Uh-huh.
And she only starts using force powers after that, like, mind meld with Kylo in The Force
Kylo,
Awakens.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like it was always there, but he kind of pushed her
Yeah.
to, and that's why she's so adept at it. Like, right away, he
Yeah.
just kind of
Yeah.
jump-started it.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, that whole thing with, like, the fact that their powers are going to, like, mirror each other is, like, what is, in 9, if they're on opposite sides, what does that mean? Because it's like, as she trains, he gets stronger, he gets stronger, she does, like, how is that going to be resolved?
Drama. Okay, speaking of Rey's training and the future of the Jedi, and oh my god, Yoda's arrival was beautiful.
So perfect.
Yeah.
And I loved the symbolism of Yoda being the one to just blow shit
Yeah.
up.
Oh yeah.
Like, just let it
And
burn.
laugh.
And laugh about
And laugh, because that's Yoda. But here's my question. Like, we notice at the end
the books.
that
Rey's got the
are on the
books.
Falcon.
Yeah.
The question is, did Rey get them out and Luke didn't know they were there? Or did Luke put them there?
I was actually wondering if Yoda maybe appeared to Rey and told her to steal them.
Or if Rey
Ooh.
just took them, because she was petty.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm going to go do this shit myself. Like,
I mean, that's a question. Like, it
Yeah.
didn't occur to me at first, but Yeah, like how did they wind up on the Falcon? Because Luke didn't act like he knew. Like he acted like he was destroying everything.
Yeah, I think that he thought that he was, but that's why he was going to run in.
I don't think he knew that the books were on the Falcon.
I think that
no,
Yoda
he
knew
didn't.
That they weren't there anymore.
He definitely did because
funny.
Well, because Yoda says she has everything she needs.
Oh yeah, that's totally cryptic. That's totally like double,
Yeah.
Another question in terms of, do you guys think that Snoke really bridged Kylo and Rey's minds, or did he just saw it and manipulated it? And I think
he manipulated it.
Yeah, he may have.
I think that bond happened in that scene where they touched minds, and I think it happened.
Yeah,
there.
well, and also, and I don't necessarily think it would have died with him, so I don't think that the fact that they had it still at the end is necessarily evidence that he was lying, but I do think just because of who he is, he knew that would make them doubt themselves and each other, because part of it, because they thought, oh my god, this special connection is amazing. It's like teenagers in love who are like, nobody's been in love as much as we
ever
have been in love ever
in the history of mankind.
And
I read a great article today, and I think it's the same one. I think the title is "The Last Jedi Doesn't Care What You Think About Star Wars and Why That's a Good Thing."
Yes.
But there's a line in there about how, like, protective Uncle Luke really should have known that busting up the couples were only going to make them cling to each other that much closer.
Oh, totally.
Yeah, and I was like, were his, like, senses tingling? He was just like, what's going on? There's, like, clandestine touching happening. There's hand touching.
There's fingertips touching.
Time to cock block.
Oh, God.
Yeah, one thing I said, that scene where they touch fingers, like, it's it reminds me of the whole thing in Pride and Prejudice where they, like, touch hands without their gloves and Darcy flexes his hand. But also,
yes.
Have you guys seen the piano?
No.
Okay,
Oh,
so you can Google this scene. It's just, I think if you just Google the piano lifted higher, you'll find the scene. And it's Holly Hunter's character is playing the piano. She's mute, by the way, in the movie. I don't know if you know this, but she's playing the piano, and her husband is like lifted higher. He wants her to lift her skirts higher while she's playing. He gets under the piano, and while she's playing, so you can look at her legs, and there's a hole in her stocking. And he starts touching her skin just with a fingertip through the hole in her stocking. And I was like, that whole scene with Rey and Kylo touching hands is like the most intimate thing I've seen on film other than that moment in the piano, pretty much.
Yeah.
Like, it's insane.
This was pretty sexy for a Star Wars.
It really was.
It really was.
Jesus. Like, and like metaphorically, this is the closest you can get to having sex, is the hand touching. It's the fighting together. Like, you're not ever going to have a sex scene.
Fight scene.
Oh,
you're going to have this kind of thing. And I think it's metaphorical. And then I didn't even think about it until I think it's Joanna Robinson from Vanity Fair brought up the water droplets on his hand.
Oh my god! I read that article. Yes.
I was just like, yeah, that's
Woof.
really evocative.
Woof.
Yeah,
I can't handle it.
But
I mean, I can, but I can't.
Yeah, but
It astonishes me the number of people who are still in denial that there is anything between Rey and Kylo.
I don't understand why.
They could be fucking on screen, and somebody'd be like, it'd be like, oh well, they're gonna come back at 9 and they're gonna touch me related. You know what happened in Empire? Like, no, please, no, that was an accident.
They're not gonna They're not gonna pull another relation thing, because the whole reason they did that in Jedi is because George Lucas was burnt out and couldn't do the sequel trilogy where Luke discovered who his sister was, and he looked around and he's like, well, I've only got one woman in the universe, so I guess it's Leia.
I only wrote one female
Yeah,
character.
I totally had a point and just forgot it.
Whether it ends up being Endgame or not, like, I consider it
that
canon.
was,
like,
yes.
It's just, that was a romantic and sexual relationship. It lasted maybe a couple days, but I think that
it was
it's
intense.
a canon, like, romantic relationship that is on a really extended break right now. You know?
I loved your comment about that.
Yeah.
That it's like when one of you wants to live in Tennessee and one of you wants to live in the city.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like the only way it's not going to be Endgame is if Kylo Ren dies.
Yeah.
Well, okay, that brings us to speculation for 9.
That is
Like-
okay.
Oh,
What are we thinking?
well, this was something I said. April and I were talking about it the morning after, or whatever. We were processing all of it and talking about how, like, redemptive arcs and what have you, and how she said she saw his future and he chose the light, and he saw her future and she chose the dark. It made me wonder if maybe what we're going to see next time is she does choose the dark and he has to redeem her. He has to bring her back.
Ah.
And
I would like that.
Wouldn't that be
Yeah.
an interesting reversal?
Yeah.
I could almost see that she turns and he pulls a 180 of, oh fuck, what did I just do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And seeing that pulls him out. That would be interesting.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great?
Well, and I think it's going to be interesting because we're going to see both of them struggle with the mantle of, like, this responsibility they've taken on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and, my daughter she was wondering about, she was like, so Chewbacca's the only one of the old ones left, pretty much. And,
Except for the droids.
Except
Yeah.
for the droids, yeah. And she was like, if they have to end up killing Chewbacca,
Oh,
she's like, she could see Chewbacca sacrificing himself for Kylo because the life debt
yeah.
extending to
Yeah.
the children. And I was like,
April.
yeah, what?
I hate you.
I didn't come up with it. I didn't come up with it. That was my daughter.
No, I'm
Hate me for
being
sharing it?
reminded
Oh.
that what's happening is this is totally Chewbacca's revenge from the EU.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because he was the only one to die in the EU,
Yeah.
so.
And in there, he sacrificed himself for a solo child.
Oh wow.
Ah! That idea just breaks me. It totally.
Yeah.
For me, just in terms of this movie, the second Star Wars movie is always the bleakest, except for the
Yeah.
prequels because they were leading into something else.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But this movie, if you actually look at it, the good guys and everything, their storyline actually isn't that bleak. I mean, the rebels they've definitely been shrunk. Like, there's not a lot of them left. But they're all hopeful. I mean, Leia
Yeah.
and Rey talk about that.
Yeah.
They're all hugging and they're all together on the Falcon.
And, the
And
last
they know
shot
they're
of them
going
is
to-
them, like, partying on the Falcon.
Yeah.
Like,
I need them, by the way, because it looked like the crystal was still intact in Anakin's lightsaber. I really want.
Yes.
Double-
we've never had a scene where somebody's constructing it because they deleted the one with Luke constructing his
Yeah.
lightsaber. I want a scene with Rey constructing her lightsaber,
Yeah.
and I want her to use.
And
that
we do
crystal.
have to have her have the double-ended staff.
Yes.
She would fight so much
lightsaber.
better with it. Because
Yeah.
she's better with the lightsaber, obviously, but it's just like than she was. But it's just like she's so good with her staff.
The whole splitting of the lightsaber was just incredibly symbolic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like we're get rid of the fucking old shit. Like,
yes.
and like
breaking the cycle.
yeah.
But just to get back to my point, like,
Oh, sorry.
in terms of
Sorry.
the ending, the rebellion, they're downtrodden, but they're hopeful for the future, and all they need is hope. You see the little boy at the end force pull the broom to him, and he's totally on the rebellion side.
Oh my god, I'm sorry, I missed that he force pulled the
Oh,
broom.
he
Yeah,
did.
does.
Yeah, he force pulls the broom.
It's
Holy
very
shit!
subtle.
Yep.
Because it's
Yeah.
more like he just reaches for it and it kind of meets him.
Mm-hmm.
you
Yeah.
know?
And Luke is dead, but he is ascended. He is happy with what has happened. So basically, the only bleak part of the end of this movie is Kylo Ren on his fucking knees, holding the dice from the Millennium Falcon, and looking up at Rey with puppy dog eyes.
Yeah, and that brings me to that's one of the things that, like, as far as things I didn't want to see that I'm fine with because they did it in this movie and because of how they did it, I was always just like afraid of this whole Kylo Ren becoming the supreme leader thing.
Mhm.
Because I was just like, God, fuck that. But it was because I was always like, people saw it more as like an episode 9 ending, and I was like, no,
Mhm.
absolutely not. And so in this, though, I'm just like, oh, this works for this, especially
Yeah.
because we don't get this final shot of him like sitting on a throne looking resolved.
Yeah.
We got the
He's
final
broken.
shot we did where he's completely broken, and Hux is looking at him.
He's kind of like, oh fuck, what did I
yeah,
do?
and Hux is looking at him like, if I had my blaster right now, I would put a bolt in your
Yeah.
head.
Mm-hmm.
Like I almost did in the throne room, you know?
This is the whole reason why I'm thinking Ben Solo's going to be redeemed.
I think we kind of have to, like, yeah, that is going to happen. It's just a question of how.
Yeah, yeah, it is. It's a hard question, and Ryan was right when he said he left things a mess. I, as a writer, would be excited, but also like, fuck you.
Yeah, for real.
Well, I am dying to know, like, how are they going to bring back the resistance from this?
Yeah.
Like, because they're not going to have Leia. Like,
Yeah.
how are they going to do this? I, as a writer, am like, I got no fucking clue, man. I don't know.
Definitely, I think this next movie is going to have a time skip of a couple of years.
At least.
It's got
At
to.
least, yeah. What did you guys think of, like, the look, like when Rey was looking at Finn and Rose? What was going on there?
Oh, that's going to be I don't even know if it's going to be a triangle in the next movie, because Poe's floating around in there too.
I think Poe's going to end up as Lieutenant Connix, though, if he ends up.
I do too.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if we talked about in one of the earlier podcasts from the novelization the scene where Rey and Poe met,
which is exactly the scene that they
which
had.
is exactly what we got.
Yeah.
And in the novelization, it was really flirty, and it was still kind of flirty here too.
I see, and I'm not seeing it as much, and I think it's great, you know, for people who ship that. But I'm also just kind of like, they had to make these characters meet finally, because they hadn't met. I think it was more a nod to like, oh hey, we're on the same side, we haven't met yet. I've heard about you.
Yeah,
of course they heard about each other. So yeah,
I do wonder though if it is Rey trying to come to terms with Finn and Rose, and Finn trying to decide where his heart is, and Rey being like, I have to be a Jedi too.
Yeah.
Can I have that and have a normal life?
Yeah.
Luke didn't, and look what happened to him.
Yeah.
Again, this is not to shoot down someone else's ships. I'm not here to shoot ships. But I will say that for my own part, as far as Rey and Finn go, like, I always think of, like, Finn and Rey as, like, looking at each other the way Bender did in the first episode of Futurama, or, you know, early on in Futurama to Fry. I mean, like, you know, Fry, of all my friends, you're the first. As in, like,
I love that.
they were, like, the first friends they ever had. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so to me, I see Rey and Finn as a very, like, platonic friendship. Like, you know, we are survivors together kind of friendship. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you survived being an orphan, you know, stormtrooper situation. I survived being, you know, orphaned by my crappy parents. You know, that's how I always picture.
But, you know, I can see that being the case, and her still having some wobbles about Finn getting romantically interested.
Oh,
Definitely.
sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is
That's
she
her
good enough for
friend.
my bestie? Yeah.
Yeah, and also like, oh god, is my friend going to still hang out with me? Like your normal fucking shit.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, totally.
Exactly.
Yeah, and especially if
And thank God for giving them something normal to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, something besides, like,
yeah.
galaxy-ending shit.
Yeah, and then if she's still got
Yeah.
this, if she's still got her fuckboy in her head, then it's like
With his beautiful titties.
we have not talked about the titties.
We didn't. How could we not have talked about the titties?
Oh my god.
I talked about my reaction when I saw him with his shirt off.
Oh, God. Well, and see, like, April put it well. Those of us who have watched Girls and have seen Adam Driver, like, we've seen pretty much all there is of Adam Driver to see, like, on television that they're going to show us. But it's different when it's Kylo Ren's titties.
Because he's like, especially his costume is covers so much of his body.
Right.
And then the thing is, I was spoiled on it because I saw the tweet from the guy the night of the premiere where he was like, Adam Driver serves up more Star Wars beefcakes, the most Star Wars beefcakes since Luke went sleeveless on Dagobah, right? And I was like, fuck. And we've been talking about it. Like, we've got to see him shirtless. And I was always like, you know, if we do, there's a narrative reason for it. Because we could see it while he's being worked on by the med droids or blah, blah, blah. And then it serves that purpose of letting us see his wounds and blah. I had no idea that they were just like, oh, we're going to actually show it so that Rey literally loses her words when she first
She's like, why did you...
I know, she's like, why did you kill your Yeah, I was just like, oh, so
and I loved. I think it was April's post about how it's amazing that the fandom has collectively decided that he has titties with a D.
Yeah, it's like, happened. I saw another post from somebody, because like in my friend group, I was like, of course that's how it, because we all just started doing it. And then I saw it from some rando I didn't know calling them the titties, and I was like, oh, so I guess this is just a thing. They are not with a T, they are with a D.
Yep, they are the titties. Oh, bless.
Yeah.
Bless.
Yeah, but I was, when she tells him to put something on and he doesn't bother to answer. Like,
Oh, yeah, he doesn't even, like,
he's
he
just
just
no answer. It's
just staring
like,
at her with his titties.
Yeah. With them
And he was
out.
like, what, am I nervous? Are you nervous with my tits out like this?
I am so looking forward to all of the mutual masturbation voyeuristic fics that are going to come out.
yes.
God.
Oh, God.
That was a trope before
right,
the movie.
and now we're like, okay, we know how this works now, that they can physically touch each other. With
Yeah.
Oh shit!
It's going to go into overload now.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And now we also have the moment
I may
when
have
she
to write
gets
some of
to
that.
actually touch those titties in real life.
Oh Lord have mercy.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, you guys have given me a new thing to want for episode 9 that has nothing to do with Adam Driver's titties. Well, I mean, tangentially it kind of does, but I now, for 9, really, really, really want Luke and Han harassing
Yes.
the shit out of them.
Yes.
Or even just Luke.
Yeah.
I mean,
Pestering.
Yeah, I saw that senior
Yeah.
around kid as a threat and a promise. Like,
100%.
Yeah.
you know.
oh, and honestly, he was totally channeling Han.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was something that Han would have said.
Yeah. I think that Rey is gonna end up finding some of these like force-sensitive kids. I mean, they can't
Yeah.
throw that kind of shit in
No, oh my God.
without following up on it.
I just don't want them to be children. I'm so tired of child soldiers in Star Wars.
Yeah.
I want her
Yeah.
to find force sensitive teenagers and young adults and
Mhm.
old people and whatever. I just can't. Like, that actually bothered. I didn't want to get into that, but that bothered me, the end, honestly, because of that. Because
That kid was what, about 9 or something?
Yeah. and he
Yeah.
was-
So if we get a time skip, he might be 14,
Yeah.
15.
which would be great. Because I'm just like, and his life isn't great anyway. So in that, it'd be like, okay, we're already doing child labor. But then, I was just like, I understood what they were trying to do, but it just, there's so much, like after Rogue One, especially with both Jyn and Cassian having been involved in this shit from an early age, and then like
Yeah.
the stormtrooper thing, I'm just like, I'm done with it. I just don't want to think
Yeah.
about child soldiers in Star Wars anymore.
Hmm.
And so that just brought that back, and I was just like, no, guys. Yeah. But that's maybe in a downer. That's there's my hashtag TLJ negativity.
Thank you for tagging your negativity. I am, like, seriously the ultimate uncritical fan, and there was probably very little they could have done in 8 to make me despise it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm kind of walking into 9 with the same sort of, just, fuck me up. Just go for it.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
I have to say, I feel bad for you as like an OT fan with lots of Luke fans in your friend group, because I know that's got to be tough right now.
I had mentioned once before that I have already actually lost a friendship from someone who couldn't take seeing positivity about this movie before it even came out.
Wow.
And I expect that to continue.
Yeah.
There have already been a lot of posts, and I commented on this today. There have been a lot of posts that are basically saying, I'm waiting for someone to spell it out, but I have to. Boy, talk about ending on a downer. I'm sorry.
That's fine.
I'm waiting for someone to spell it out, but I have seen the equivalent of how can you be a Luke fan and like this movie.
What? No.
There's a lot of, character assassination has been the accusation from the time
Oh,
we
it
saw
has.
the first
Yeah, I
trailer.
know. I'm just like, guys.
That's
And
sad.
it is very sad because these are people that I have just adored squeeing with
Yeah.
for ages. And that is really the only thing about The Last Jedi that is breaking my heart, is that I can't squee with these people anymore because we are not squeeing about the same things.
Yeah.
Well, you can squee with us.
This is a squeeze safe zone.
Yes, and I'm hoping this will be one of those things that, like, because I do have a couple of friends that, like, are death on the sequel trilogies to the point that I'm a little worried about them.
Yeah.
But we can still talk about original trilogy stuff, and we just don't talk about the sequel
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
This is something that I actually made a post about the other day, is I've seen a lot of people bash the sequel trilogy. And a lot of these people will bash the prequel trilogy too. And some of these people even bash Return of the Jedi. And I'm thinking, wow, when you're getting to that point, when you're bashing that much of Star Wars, are you actually a Star Wars fan?
Somebody said nobody hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luth, who is Persian Slipper on Tumblr, has a comment tag that they use that is, nobody hates Star Wars as much as Star Wars fans.
Yeah.
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 They feel
Yeah, 'cause I mean,
victimized.
And on that note, no.
Well, I mean, for me, it's like I am, I have my issues with the prequels, but they're Star Wars, so I still love them.
Yeah.
And
I think that's my thing too. Of if you slap Star Wars on it, I'm probably
Well,
gonna.
and
Yeah.
the thing I said, because there were things that were going to be really devastating to me if they happened in this movie, and none of them did, so that's great. So I didn't actually have to deal with this. But what I said before, I was like, I can't cut this out of my life. So I would have to find a way to love it, Like, that's just how I felt about it.
Well, and I mean, I didn't want to lose Luke
Mhm.
at all. I mean, this has been the character that I've loved since I was 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I'm 45, so
Yeah.
it's been a while. But to see, and I'm gonna start crying. To see what he did, and to see him go from being someone who was so tormented, and you got the feeling he had been alone for a long time.
Yeah.
Because he was not. He might not have been the last Jedi, but for a long time he was the only Jedi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Leia had. I mean, first of all, Leia had been trained to do what she was doing from birth.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And she had, senators around her and other governmental people, and she had people who were doing what she was doing. And Luke didn't have anybody like that.
Mhm.
Oh, God.
The only people he had were Han and Leia and Ben.
Oh, wow.
Mhm.
And then he lost them.
And the thing we learned from this movie is that we had thought for 2 years now that Luke lost everything because Ben fell to the dark side.
And
But
he
we
didn't
find
know.
out in this that Ben fell to the dark side because of one moment where Luke fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he already was there.
But like
the
Ray
final
said,
push.
he, just decided that he'd already made the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ray
Um,
dragged the shit out of him there. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
it
Oh,
just made me think with Leia too. It was really sad for me to see that Leia couldn't pull people to her based on who she was anymore. Like with the whole
Yeah.
thing with,
Oh my
I
God.
was just like,
Yeah.
Leia's name doesn't have the currency that it used to.
Yeah.
You know? And a lot of that probably has to do with like what happened with Bloodline and like her reputation being pretty much shot when people found out who her dad was, and also she had a reputation as a warmonger, but like, yeah, that was devastating to see that it was like, nope, nobody's swooping in this time.
you kind of get the feeling that she's kind of seen as like this kooky fringe
Yeah.
person
Yeah,
now.
yeah, at this point.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'm still trying to convince myself that the ghost was just outside of range of that communication, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, because the ghost is still out there. No, but to get back to what I was saying about Luke, but for me as a fan of him, like lifelong, to see him struggle with that much despair and to reach a point where he was at peace
Mm-hmm.
and was able to stop trying to save the fucking universe by himself
Mm.
was I it's been 24 hours and I don't think I have the words yet,
Aw.
but it was perfect. It was, I mean, if I had to lose him, that's how I would have wanted it to
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah, I was really surprised at how okay I was with it, because I was just like, no, and then I'm like, oh, I really was just like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he came to that island to die, and the only way he could actually do that, to actually be at peace, is to actually become one with the Force.
And I think it was his choice.
It was.
Yeah.
He let go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Eh.
there is one thing that I have not heard people mention, and that's during the first Force bond
Yes,
between
I was just gonna bring this
Kylo
up.
and Rey.
What do you
Yeah,
think?
Kylo says, you can't be doing this because it would kill you.
The effort would kill you. Yeah, I thought about that this time, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh yeah, that was a little bit of foreshadowing and lore stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, astral projecting is rough
Mm-hmm.
on the body.
Especially to the extent that he did it.
It is actually in Legends. This is a Sith ability, where a Sith can astral project themselves, and what they do is they actually drain the energy from somebody else.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
So I guess the Jedi version of it is just to exhaust your own energy.
Yeah, wow.
Okay, we should probably wrap things up, and we have to find a happier way to end this.
Okay, so
we could recap. Oscar Isaac is a snack. Sorry, I just need to say that one more time before we were done.
I would like to say it. Just yum yum Poe Dameron.
Oh my God.
So beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful skin.
I want to bring up a thing that made me super, like, sort of giddy happy today is I noticed that, like, when that first force bond encounter, whenever Rey is just right away just like, you fucking suck, I hate you, blah blah blah, and he's just like, wait a second, can you see it? Like, he's more concerned with what's happening as far as within the Force, and then he says, I can't see anything, only you, and he had that Adam Driver like open look on his face, and I was just like, he loves her so
yes, like,
much.
I loved it. Like, she's all like, I hate you, and he's all like, how is this happening?
Yeah.
Like, do you, like, can you see me? Like, I don't know where you are, but I can see you. Like,
yeah,
you know,
like, that made me super happy. There's different reactions.
I
to
do
what
have
was
to say,
happening.
as
Yeah.
someone who kind of tangentially shipped Reylo,
Mhm.
I was so fucking happy for you guys. Man. I
After what we've been
was like
through,
ready to cheer.
after all that we've been through, 2 years of massive hatred, it was like,
Seriously,
I was like,
this was like some serious
this
vindication.
was the best year. I started this year with the downfall of a certain segment of the Sherlock fandom and ended it.
Oh
with
my God,
this.
And the
yes.
rising of another part.
I'm just like, yes, this was a good year with that. A lot of 2017 can suck my ass, but that was nice.
Yeah. On a bright point, emo Kylo Ren is back on Twitter.
Yes.
And
So
I
good.
saw that.
It's
So I
so
made a friend
good.
on Skype.
The only post I saw, and it was before I saw the movie, so I stopped looking.
Yeah.
But I saw the post about, so a few things have changed.
Yes.
And I went, oh shit, I can't read anymore. I gotta
Yeah.
stay away until I've seen the movie.
Oh god.
I think
so
the
good.
only ones he posted after that was, I've been working out and I made a friend on Skype.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
I think that's a perfect way to end.
Yes.
Well, I want to thank you guys. This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah,
thank you,
definitely.
April and Emcee and Angie, our special guest. Yay!
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
So we will. We do know that we have a lost episode that we're going to share with you
Yes.
because we didn't get it posted in time. Of us talking about our trailer speculations, which I think in hindsight is going to be hilarious.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
But thank you guys.
Yeah.